Good evening, everybody, and welcome families to another virtual revisit day here. We're going to discuss tonight the Center for Learning Achievement. We have the lovely team of staff that help and learning specialists that helps take care of the boys that are in our programs. My name is Chris Gilman. I'm the director for Center for Learning Achievement, and I would just like to welcome you guys. And just as a reminder, there is a chat button and a Q&A button on the bottom. So if you have questions throughout the webinar or throughout the evening, if you want to just submit those through there, and hopefully we'll be able to answer and get to all those. I do know there's a friendly reminder from Jeff Beck, our director of admissions, that is a reminder on Thursday, we will be conducting an in-person revisit day on campus. And again, our team will have a couple of breakout sessions during the day to discuss with you a little bit more about what we do, and hopefully split up into some of our signature programs and be able to answer program specific questions that you guys may have. And again, I'm joined this evening with this lovely group that you see here of learning specialists that make our programs so successful. We are excited about Trinity-Pawling. We're excited about the next year of students that will come. And I think I may be biased here, but I think we do amazing work within our programs, and I'm blessed to work with these lovely colleagues on here. But I think first we'll start with a little round of introductions here, and we'll just go around my screen here. Arlene, do you want to kick things off here? You're muted, I think. Here we go.
Sorry about that. My name is Arlene Toscano. This is my 8th year at Trinity-Pawling, and I teach reading comprehension, and I live off campus.
Jen?
Hi, I'm Jennifer Grahn. This is my 2nd year teaching here at Trinity-Pawling. I teach reading comp, executive skills, and composition. I also have a son who's a 2024.
Great, thank you. Ashley?
Hi, my name is Ashley Frost. I teach executive skills and reading comprehension. This is my 1st year working here, though I've lived here for 9 years. I live in a dorm. My husband and I run the farming program, and I also am an advisor.
Great. Last but not least, Rachel.
Good evening. I'm Rachel Kellogg. I teach executive skills and reading comprehension. This is my 11th year teaching here at Trinity-Pawling. My 27th year here living on campus. I taught Mr. Gilman a long time ago. I am a coach, an advisor, and a parent. My 2 oldest, one graduated in 10 and one in 15. And then my 3rd one here is a junior.
Awesome. And once again, my name is Chris Gilman, and I teach analytical writing this year. Over the years, I've taught Comp 1 and reading comp. This is my 11th year working here and my 6th year in the program. I coach as well, an advisor, and live in Star Dorm with sophomores and freshmen. So lots of entertainment over there. And so again, the evening is going to be filled with information about the Center for Learning Achievement, what we do. We'll dive into maybe the programs a little bit more, specifically class sizes, curriculum, what a typical day might look like for a student in the program. But a little bit more about the program itself is the Center for Learning Achievement gives the students the support and skills for them to be successful, and not just at Trinity-Pawling, but in college and years beyond that. When students come to Trinity-Pawling, oftentimes we know they come with these learning differences, and we try to help them navigate, gain confidence, become familiar with their learning differences, and how to navigate the waters that they're going to have to kind of trudge through a little bit to be successful students. And we do all that here as we try to, again, have them reach their academic goals, but obviously, again, gain the confidence and life goals. And our program is vigorous, it's sequential, it's systematic. We take a Orton Gillingham approach. We're all certified Orton Gillingham specialists. Our students that are within our program could, have dyslexia, and or any language-based learning differences, executive functioning issues. We do have a EMP program, which is for international students who kind of lack some academic English fluency. But we're going to dive into a little bit more about those programs a little bit, and I'm going to kind of lean on again this awesome team that I have here to kind of help answer some of the questions. But I would say probably over the years, our most popular and probably one of our most signature programs is our LEAD program. And LEAD is learning through enrichment, analysis, and development. It's a 2-year program that, again, is proven the Orton-Gillingham approach, and it makes classroom content very accessible for those that are in the program. The first year LEAD will consist of 2 classes, which will be a reading comp and a composition 1 class. And in the second year, they'll dive into what we call an analytical writing course. But first, I'm going to lean on Arlene here. Can you talk a little bit about what a reading comprehension class might look like? What's the size of what's the ratio of student to faculty? Kind of what each day would look like for a student that was enrolled in reading comp?
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Typical reading comp class basically starts at the foundation, and we build up from there. It's a small size class, usually 2 or 3 to 1, so 2 or 3 students to 1 teacher. You really get to know the students and almost becomes like a family. I've had some of my reading comp teachers call me mom by accident because we get so close in here that they just automatically just say that. It's happened more than once. But we start with this Orton-Gillingham approach, which is multisensory. So we try to have an oral, visual, and a kinesthetic. And we focus on our beginning of the year focuses on phonics and building into syllabication to kind of fill in all the gaps if there's anything missing and shore up the foundation. And we then go on to a more advanced Orton-Gillingham program in the spring where we look at morphology, suffixes and prefixes and roots, and spelling rules. Throughout the year, we focus on reading comprehension strategies. In January, I think we look for patterns in how readings are organized, specifically, and for not just things that we read, but then how we write. So how we would articles that we read, and then how we can use these patterns in our writing. So we look at lists, time order, cause and effect, and compare and contrast. And those patterns are used not just in reading comp, but in the other classes that they take within our program. Throughout reading comp, we're focusing on executive functioning skills. A more academic approach to executive functioning skills. We look for organization with our planner and with planning how to study. We do study skills. If a student has an issue in a class other than reading comp, they come and they can talk to us. I still have former reading comp students coming in and asking me, can you help me write an essay? Can you help me come up with an idea? And we're there for them for that. In terms of content for phonics, we memorize our sound cards, which are the alphabet and the sound relationships. We read primarily nonfiction passages, and we work a lot on vocabulary development. Reading comp, also in this fall and then again in the spring, we do several standardized assessments to track our growth of our students and their strengths of their skills. And in both fall and spring, we do a gray oral reading test that tests reading rate, accuracy, fluency, and comprehension. A gray silent reading test that tests comprehension, and a spelling test. It's fairly common to witness an improvement of the equivalent of at least 3 grade levels in these assessments. It's between January and May, which is really rewarding as a teacher to see the difference that we're making in our students' lives and their academics.
Mm-hmm. And so So the reading comp, right? So that's, one of the first year courses in addition to reading comp, which I think kind of dovetails together very well, is students will also be placed in a composition 1, which is more, it's a little bit of a bigger class, but it's more of an English focused class. And Jen, do you want to talk a little bit about kind of what the students gain from composition 1 and how they kind of can go together, because you also teach reading comp, so how they can kind of go together in those 2 classes are kind of working simultaneously.
Okay, just to, agree with what you and Arlene both said, both reading comp and comp definitely complement one another. And Ashley and I can both vouch that a lot of the material that is taught in comp, we are also practicing in reading comp with certain students who might show more of a struggle. So we work very closely together in the 2 classes. But composition itself is a little larger. It's made up of 7 to 8 students to 1 teacher. The students work on the fundamentals of grammar and writing. So in the fall term, we cover the parts of speech. And in the winter term, we work on sentence structure. Students begin to master incorporating all of these rules in their writing. So come the spring term, we're working on clauses and phrases, but continuing throughout the year, they're always building on their own writing skills and incorporating these rules on a daily basis. We read short stories and work on the proper structure of writing essays. So it's almost like a little introduction into the analytical writing paragraph that they'll see thereafter. Supporting their thoughts with details from the text and coming up with a thesis sentence, a topic sentence. We have a chance to do a pre-writing, planning out, and that complements what Arlene spoke about with our logic pyramid that we introduced in reading comp. We kind of follow that through in composition to do an outline form. Students are introduced throughout the year to different sentence structures that they are expected to include in proper format in all of their writing. So we're mastering the rules we learned throughout the year, and the students are continually improving their writing skills while building on their comprehension. So it absolutely allows a student with learning differences to recognize what makes up a sentence and seeing things a little bit differently. And for those mastering the academic English fluency, it absolutely allows them to see what it takes to properly write in English. So we're continually building on whatever skill set they bring to the table.
Yeah, and it's funny, I was able to teach a little bit of Comp 1 over the years, and obviously this year I'm just teaching analytical writing. But to touch on what Jen said a little bit, it's really fun to see kind of where it starts when I had a student in composition 1, and then I got to teach him in the second year as an analytical writing student, kind of where he starts, just trying to get those sentences together to formulate just one big paragraph. But now, as they kind of move into analytical writing, which is the second year, you kind of see those paragraphs then formulate into large 5-paragraph essays, and it starts to all come full circle. So, everything that we do within the lead program, I would say, for everybody on this call that kind of has their hand in it all, is whatever skill set a student is bringing to the table, we're working on building. We're starting at that foundation level, and then obviously we're trying to get them to fully master the material. So just to touch a little bit on the second year, which is analytical writing, again, we're using the components that the students are learning in composition 1 that first year. So that how to turn that sentence structure into a paragraph, but now again, turn those paragraphs into bigger essays. And we'll read a number of short stories and short novellas. We'll sort of dive into looking for figurative language and some symbolism. We'll start to learn how to chart notes and annotate properly. Again, building on some of the skills that we touched on in Comp 1, but just kind of putting it, in overdrive for the analytical writing course. And then again, those essays, we're looking for mastery of writing skills. Writing, I've said for years, and Roberta Liedl has said it for years, we wish every student in the school would take an analytical writing course, because they learn so much in there, and and writing is a skill that is often overlooked, but it's also a skill that's not going to go away. So a lot of our students that, I think Arlene touched on this earlier, that may not even be in the program, oftentimes pop into our classrooms or offices and just say, hey, can you help me start this essay, or I need help with my college essay, or get going with that. So we kind of serve the greater community instead of just kind of serving those students that are in our program. And Rachel, I know a lot of questions often come up about, a student in lead. How does that change their academic schedule, or how does it differ? A ninth grade boy that's in lead, how does that differ than a ninth grade boy that's not in the lead program? What does their daily schedule or academic schedule look like? And what are some of the changes that are made that in order for us to fit the lead program into what we're doing?
So the very first year of lead, the boys are taking again a reading comprehension and another English, they're taking, there's boys outside my classroom right now. So they'll take they'll take a reading comp the first year, and that helps and is taking the place of their English class. So they're not adding extra classes to their current schedule. But it kind of balances it out. It kind of sets the tone for them right away, their very first year. And the good thing about what we are doing in our classes is we're not only doing our coursework, but we're also doing some executive skills. So we're really helping them kind of help manage what they're doing in all their other classes, helping them out so that they're not feeling overwhelmed each and every single day. And the wonderful thing is, our past director is now also currently working on doing the scheduling for our students. So they're able to make sure that everything is balanced out. Excuse me for 1 second. Hey boys, I'm in a webinar right now. Okay.
There's learning going around all of us all the time. So the suggestion of making sure we're overlooking for the boys on campus.
I'm sorry. Do you want me to talk a little bit about the ESP also, Chris, right now?
Yeah, I think that's a perfect kind of segue into kind of one of our other signature programs is our executive skills program. And, go ahead, dive right into that, Rach.
So the executive skills program is a 1 to 2 year program, really based upon the students' needs. We really look at each of our students, and the class is based upon their individual, right? And what their needs are at the moment. It's ever changing. At times, a little bit, it could be a little bit Groundhog Day where we're doing the same thing to help master those skills. And those skills talking about planning, organizing, self-advocating. We might be helping them to learn how to study correctly, but it's individualized. So it's not a set curriculum that we sit there and we say, okay, day 1, we do this, and on day 2, we do this. It's really based upon what that boy needs. And again, like I said, it's ever changing. We'll start our day every day looking at our planner. We help them to set up a planner so that they are staying as organized as they can, not for just our class, but for every single class. We also have an online version of our planner so that the kids can also check and see what they have for other classes to make sure it's written down. We'll then make a plan together. What do we have coming up? How do we break down and we get our work done and manage it? We might also be working on a skill. So they might have an actual lesson where we're talking about, okay, we're going to talk for the next few weeks on how to study. And we're going to down teaching them multiple ways how to study. But again, every child has a very different challenge. And, it's amazing the growth that we see from day 1 to the time they leave this classroom, to the time they leave at Trinity-Pawling. And I tell parents, some of us get these skills right away. And some of us, it takes a little bit longer, but we're all on our own individual plan. And, you know, we work very, very closely with all of the other teachers here, helping them, you know, supporting the teacher in the classroom, supporting the kid in the classroom, and making sure that these boys are getting what they need, and teaching them how to ask for what they need. You know, it's a wonderful class. I have multiple teachers that come and say, I think I need this class. And we might agree with them sometimes, that we could all use a little bit help on how to better, you know, organize and how to, and the organization doesn't just happen in my class. So I might teach them how to organize and set up a binder for another class. We might help teach them how to organize the room, because that can be very difficult for them too, you know, living away from home from the very first time. But yeah, and then we also have them each week, you know, the boys, we will look at and make goals for them. And the goal really is stemmed from what they feel that they need, along with them kind of predicting how they're doing each week. And we do this every single week with then some feedback that happens from each of their teachers every single week. So they know exactly how they're doing, so that we can then fix any kind of challenges or hiccups that we may be encountering through the whole year.
Yeah, and you talked about some of those skills and growth that we see throughout the year. I know, Ashley, you're new to the program this year, but obviously not new to teaching. But what, you know, teaching a little bit of reading comp and ESP, what are some of the biggest areas of growth that you see with your ESP students kind of over the course of the year so far? And can you talk a little bit about, you know, how this may differ from your previous, you know, teaching experience in terms of these type of students?
Sure. I mean, I haven't completed my full first year yet, but I've seen such growth from the beginning of the school year. You know, it's definitely a unique experience for these students. Some students come in and are excited to become more organized, and some are really, really not wanting the help. I think we all, you know, spend a great deal of time getting to know our students and building a relationship with them, and you know, building that relationship and letting them know that they can trust us and we trust them really is key, in my opinion, to helping them become successful. A lot of times it becomes, you know, they're in our classrooms, our students are in our classrooms a lot more than just during the time that they're assigned here. And in particular, for me, my experience anyway, the ones who were most against the help at the beginning are the ones that seem to be coming here on a regular basis, checking in, asking for help, asking for guidance. You know, and the same for reading comp, executive skills, there's all different ranges of what students need help with. And so, you know, taking that time in the beginning to get to know what they really need, they, you know, may need for the whole school year, a really intense, constant reminders, do use your planners. I think the planner is one of the biggest things that the boys push back on. And I've seen that's with one student in particular, he now doesn't go anywhere without his planner, and he fought me for a while at the beginning of the school year. You know, it's really helped him learn that even though all his assignments are in teams, it's helpful for him to write it down in his planner. He can always refer to it, whether he has his computer or not. So, you know, and it even goes as far as making sure they have a good routine through from morning to the nighttime, getting up on time for their commitments, getting to the med room, getting to classes, getting, you know, to sports, just making sure that they're going to bed on time, making good use of study hall. So I think, you know, haven't seen the end of my school year yet, but the growth in each of the students is really fun to watch.
And I would add too that, you know, again, these life skills, and I touched on it earlier, they're life skills. And we've had students that graduated from Trinity-Pawling that have reached out and said, hey, can you send me a planner that I can use in college? Because it becomes so ingrained for them and helpful for them that they see the value in it, and it plays dividend for their success. I'm going to switch gears a little bit just because I want to make sure that we kind of cover all the programs, and then we'll kind of dive into a little bit more CLA specific questions that folks might have out there. But I just want to mention, you know, our EMP program, which follows a very similar structure to the lead. But again, it's more geared for the students that are struggling with English and trying to the English language and trying to master, you know, the language and the writing piece and the reading piece of it all. But Arlene, can you talk a little bit about maybe some of the differences between EMP and lead, you know, that kind of weren't discussed on this call already?
Okay, well, EMP follows the same two-year structure as lead. Both programs follow the same curriculum. The difference is, like, what is the difference in terms of an EMP student's experience versus a lead student's experience? And I would say that happens just naturally within the classroom, even though within reading comp and comp 1 and analytical writing, we have a set curriculum. The small class size allows us to target what each individual student needs and to focus on that within the classroom. So we differentiate constantly. The EMP students, and that's both lead students and EMP students, that it goes both ways. EMP students in general tend to have a need to focus on pronunciation, vocabulary, grammar in their writing. So for example, one of the things that we do in reading comp is whenever we define a word, we write it as a sentence. And that helps consistently throughout the term, throughout the year, to help students focus on the concordance of their writing. Is everything in agreement? Does the verb agree with the subject, intense, person, number, and gender? Which is a big writing issue that a lot of international students tend to deal with. They're writing in every class of our program. And the teachers are constantly giving feedback in order to help improve the writing. The international students tend to have an improvement in all of the skills that are tested for the TOEFL, which is required to get into colleges. So they improve their listening, speaking, reading, and writing skills. And they also have just a greater success throughout high school, because they've learned, high school and college, they've learned this academic English that is not always easy to get in a regular language class. A typical class might begin with students coming in and just like in the ESP program, they take out their planner. They make sure that that the planner is being used for all of their classes. They write down their homework at that time. And during this time, we also interact as a class. We try to figure out, if everybody's having a good day, if there's any trouble anywhere on campus, in the dorm, with friends, with clubs. A lot of students forget that they have to join clubs, and we're the ones that remind them. We also help them deal with issues that might come up in other classes. Then we focus on the lesson of the day, usually a skill or a rule that they need to learn. And then we read, this is in reading comp, we often have a reading passage and discuss different strategies. And sometimes we play games. We'll try to bring in Kahoot and, different online games that we can find for them. Just anything and everything we do is to help reinforce what they need to learn, the skills that they need to learn to bring them to the mastery of what we're doing here.
Sure. And I want to dive into a piece that you kind of mentioned, and I'm going to kind of kick it back to Ashley here. When we're talking about, students working in all the classes, we as a team work very closely with our students' teachers. And one of the ways, obviously we're in constant contact, but early in the year in September, the CLA will share a letter with, or an email with the students' teachers, with the boys' teachers. And what would be in that email, Ashley? What are some of the highlights that we kind of talk about, and how can we assist the faculty while they're working with the boys?
Yeah, I think for me, being my first year, I was really surprised at how often teachers came to us for support, or come to us for support for these students. You know, in the email at the beginning of the school year, we sort of outline the students' needs. Sometimes their diagnoses, strategies that work for them. You know, we go into detail in terms of ways that things that would help, whether it be for test taking, paying attention in class, sometimes, you know, movement breaks, things that you know, when you have a smaller class like we have, and we get to know the kids really well, we know what really works for them. And when you have a class of 12 or 14 kids, it's nice for us to be able to give those little pointers to the teachers to help them out. Or whether it be, like Arlene said, writing an essay and they need a different format, or you know, some extra help. So, you know, that's at the beginning of the school year. And I believe all of us, because students get weeklies that are in our program, which is a document that goes out, each teacher gets to give a little blurb of how each student, you know, did in their class. And that kind of helps us help the student, but also help the teacher kind of blend the two and keep them moving in a positive direction. Or if they do start to fall back a little bit, we can catch it before we get to the end of the marking period, and we got a lot of catch up to do. So.
And I would say too, I would say that our role as learning specialists has expanded just beyond our boys, but again, with the teachers as well. And I know, you know, that they're very communicative with us and want to learn and how to help all their students, you know, and they're the experts in their field, but we're kind of the experts with your boys and making sure that we have, you know, we generally have the strategies and kind of the toolbox to kind of help them navigate those waters. And one of the good things that I think we do is, obviously we're a very collaborative group, but we also have a weekly meeting with our Dean of Counseling and our Dean of Residential Life and our Dean of Students, and kind of just make sure that we're touching on, you know, all the areas of the Trinity-Pawling experience. I mean, we're very close with the boys, obviously academically, but we get to know them in a dorm setting and sports setting as well. So Rachel, what are some of the areas that you find to be successful, that we're so collaborative, and how do we help continue to support the boys? And again, that weekly meeting, having that in place has been so helpful for us in making sure that we're best serving our students. So what's the benefit of us being so collaborative and us so close with all the boys?
Well, I believe that the boys know that we meet, and they're, you know, that changes their behavior or anything, but they know that we truly care. And again, like Chris has said, there's a group of us, and we collaborate each week, and we talk about not only their challenges, but their successes. Mm-hmm. So it's wonderful because we're able to share that with each other. The rest of the people on the team, along with the other teachers that we're sharing these challenges and successes with, are able then to help support the boys with that and share with them, you know, hey, I heard you did really well on this. Their advisor is part of that team also. So there's great communication that happens nonstop. I mean, it's really wonderful. Going back to that relationship that happens even after they graduate from the program. Because the boys know we understand what they need to do to get from point A to point B. But they also know that we are really pushing them and understanding their strengths. Mm-hmm. And so there's this amazing trust that happens that once they graduate from the program, it naturally just occurs that they continue to come back to us. Mm-hmm. They continue to check in. You know, we'll kind of giggle because we're all kind of located centrally together in the classroom, and we'll see the boys kind of circling outside our classrooms as we're teaching, because they need to come in and say, hey, Mrs. Kellogg, or hey, Miss Grahn, I need help, you know, sending a letter for my job this summer. Do you think you could look it over? How does it sound? You know, so they're in constant relationship with us, I'm sorry, even after they leave the program, along with their teachers, which is wonderful, because they'll come back and they'll say, hey, I know you taught him 3 years ago. What were some ways that you were able to help him to understand how to study better? He seems to be struggling a little bit more. And we will regroup. I'll call the boy in, or you know, Chris will say, hey, you know, hey, can we chat for a little bit? Because people know that the trust that happens within our program between the boys, the teachers, and us it's outstanding. And it carries on for years and years. You know, I'm sure that, you know, Chris has been in the program longer than I have, that he still has boys that'll come back and they'll talk about things that happened in the class.
Mm-hmm.
In the class, they touch base about things that are going on in their lives. So it doesn't end when they finish the program. It's not like, okay, here you go. They know that we have an open door policy that happens all the time, whether it be in here or they're checking in the dining hall or on the, on the athletic fields or wherever.
Yeah, I think we all can relate. Oftentimes, students in our classes, they'll have friends that will pop in and say, hey, how can I get in this class? Or what do I need to do to be here? So it becomes infectious. And I think, you know, the students are very comfortable with us, like Rachel said, past their time of being in the program. Jen, I think once a student leaves ESP or lead or EMP, how do we continue to support them? You know, I know there's a couple of students in particular that maybe pop into your classroom, even though they're no longer kind of in the program, but what are those checkpoints like? Sometimes it's just redirection, sometimes it's words of encouragement, but kind of what does that look like when, you know, a student graduates from the lead program in 10th grade, but he's popping in as a 12th grader to
Right. Well, all the boys that
the waters.
In the reading comp with me last year, I'm still their checkpoint. So when their grades come out, I make sure I look it over and look at their comments. And if there's anything that seems to be a little off, you know, I would definitely reach out to the student just to have a conversation and see how I could best support them. If they need something, that I could with them collaborate with the teacher and see how to best support them. That's one way. Certainly, just recently, the email went out about students applying for the National Junior Honor Society. I have already begun to read over essays and applications and help them in that. So they know, I think, like to Rachel's point, our door is always open, but like Rachel's and all of our students know that each of our doors are open.
Sure.
So like, I know last week I was reading a college email that one of Rachel's students was sending out because I was available and she was in class. So the checkpoints are constant. And for those who are maybe not constant, we are always looking out for them, having them on our radar, just in case, and making sure they know this door is open as they start to apply for colleges or trying out for a sport, anything that comes their way, we know, we're aware of. So I guess the checkpoints are on a daily basis. And
I think the important thing to kind of emphasize too is that our work doesn't stop, I should say. And it starts in the summer, starts in the spring when we kind of know, you know, who do we have coming in that's going to start with us in September. This team is already meeting with a number of other people. You know, we can't run the whole school, but we help support the school. But we meet constantly to kind of navigate those as we're starting to create our sections for our programs, and where do we feel that pair. I mean, you heard tonight how important the small class the small class size really benefits the students, but we need to make sure that, or we try to make sure that the pairs are somewhat compatible. And, you know, maybe we're putting students in together that are coming in at similar similar points of their educational lives, to kind of make sure that we can kind of manipulate the curriculum a little way to navigate and try to get through certain points of their learning curve. And one of the, I think the good ways is, you know, I'm going to call on Ashley a little bit, because she's got a little bit of a hybrid course where the year started, welcome as your first year, the year kind of started for you, and you noticed that there maybe some of the students didn't need certain parts of the curriculum, but we kind of were able to change things around and push through a little bit. So you kind of have a hybrid lead ESP kind of course. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so in this case, you know, I was working with a student with working on his executive skills and helping with some homework, and realized that his reading comprehension was not where it should be. And so we did some testing on him, and, use part of our class to also do reading comprehension, and get him some resources that, have helped him really feel so much better about himself, and not just sweep his, struggle with reading under the rug. And I mean, he has come a very long way, and Jen works with the student as well. And I think that, the supports, and knowing that we're not going to judge, them, and whatever comes up, we're willing to make work and help and find help if we don't know the answer. As my first year, I was like, what do I do? And so, I've been very much supported by everyone in the department here. And I think our students see that as well, that we definitely are a team and for them.
Yeah, we're all advocates in their corner, obviously trying to, allow them to gain that confidence and to become the students that they know they are, and we know they are, but maybe just push down a little bit. And last piece, and then I know we'll be mindful of everyone's time tonight, and I'm going to throw it over to Arlene a little bit. The onboarding process for the students, and I know a lot of you parents and students that are on the call tonight are kind of, I guess, really in the thick of it, or right now, or you're kind of on the, you're past the tough part of getting all the paperwork in, but just kind of making the decision. It starts with the admissions process, and some students come to us with IEPs, and some students come with, private psych evals, and that will, if you share that with admissions, or sometimes you guys reach out to us directly, we'll kind of look through it and comb through it and kind of make our decision based off of there, and say, recommendation, whether it's an ESP or a lead, or, I know there's, a couple of times where we weren't kind of unsure until we met the boy in person, kind of were able to talk a little bit to kind of make that best fit. But Arlene, how do we, I guess, first off, as a school, how do we look at testing? How do we, we don't necessarily follow IEPs, but how do if a student arrives here with an IEP or some psych testing, how do we treat that, and how do we manage those students?
Well, this year we have started that each of us learning specialists becomes the point person for the students who enter into the LEAD program and the ESP program. So I am the point person for all of the students I have in my reading comp class, and the person so Rachel and Jen and Ashley might be a point person for reading, someone who starts an ESP in their executive skills class, or in reading comp for the LEAD program. And what we do is, one of the first things we do is we read through the testing and see what has been recommended. And we look at those recommendations, and we take note of that. And we then pass that information along to the teachers in our September letter, in our September email. We also invite the teachers to come and talk to us about any concerns they might have. We tend not to want the teachers to read the testing independently. If the teacher wants to see the testing, we're more than happy to do that with them, but we want to do it with them and have a meeting where we can support them and help explain what the different terminology means and how, because sometimes the testing is written in a way that is not very easy to digest on its own. But we tend to like to look at the testing to see where the student is at, but then in September we still the students come in still with the blank slate. So we know, we get a general idea, we try to figure out what we can do to help, but then as students come into our classroom, we see what they need at that time. Testing is not always completely up to date. It might have happened 6 months before or a year before, and there can be changes that happen in that time. So while the testing is important for us to understand where students are and what they need, our biggest and most important guidance is the relationship that we develop in the classroom with the students and the work that they do and how the things that we see that they need support in conjunction with and in addition to what the testing says.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, we all know that every student learns differently, and they all kind of arrive to Trinity-Pawling, you know, at different points, but the end goal is the same, and we want our students to leave here more prepared and self-assured and confident to enter the kind of the learning world. And you know, I think we do a very good job of that. I would like to thank this lovely team here in front of you guys for your time this evening. We hope that we're able to give you guys a little bit more information about our programs and kind of what we do here in the Center for Learning Achievement at Trinity-Pawling. And again, just a reminder that there is an in-person revisit day on April 7th, and we'll kind of host, this team will host a few breakout sessions for parents and a few more maybe Q&As. And again, we can kind of split up and dive into maybe a little bit more of program-oriented questions if you know kind of the program that your son has been accepted to or that you have applied for. But I also want to make a point that, you know, I hope you know that we obviously care tremendously about our students, and we will go to Earth's End to help them and to support them. And if you guys have questions, we're obviously available to all of you at any point. If any questions kind of came up from this conversation, or if you have, again, those more specific questions and you won't be joining us on Thursday, we're obviously all available to reach out, email, or call. And this is obviously what we love to do and what we care about and our passion. So we're happy to take those calls and to answer any questions that you guys may have. And I want to thank everybody, panel, as well as those that joined from home for joining us this evening and kind of listening to us chat a little bit. But we hope you gathered some information, and I hope you guys have a great night, and thank you everybody that's on the call here. We have class at 8:30 tomorrow. And I will see you guys around, and thank you again, and hope everybody has a good evening.
Good night.
Night.